Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm so excited for season 2 and the great guests you're going to hear from, their struggles, how they overcame their struggles, their triumphs. Through personal and business life, I think they're tied together, and we're going to share great stories about that. This show isn't just about me. It takes a lot of good people working with me. Among them is my partner, H7 Network, and Clay Hicks. Building relationships, building community is the mission of H7 Network. They want to create a network of champions where everybody wins. Find out more at h7network.com. And we hope to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you through our show. Enjoy the show. We'll talk to you on the other side. Welcome, everyone, to another incredible episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And this guest I met a few weeks ago, but he definitely identifies as a servant. He's doing so many great things, and excited to share what he's doing now and helping people what he's doing with his coaching. Hey, Brett, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate the introduction and excited to be here.
Well, you bet. Let's start at the beginning, before you got into coaching and what you were doing and what led you there.
Sure. So before I got into coaching, I grew up, observing my father, owning his own business in Paterson, New Jersey, back in the 1980s. He worked in a party rental business, and, he had a partner within the business. So, I got a very early upfront view of what servant leadership was about, and a side-by-side comparison of what it wasn't as well by being in that environment as a young kid. I saw my father get in the trenches with his people, never ask them to do anything he wasn't willing actionably to do himself, and genuinely caring about the people that worked with him on a personal level. And all of that led to them being willing to run through walls for him, wanting to work hard on their own behalf, let alone his behalf, where his partner, they would willfully not do the things because it was just, beating him over the head, do as I say, not as I do type of thing. So I think early on, I got a really good glimpse of what servant leadership and strong coaching looks like. And then, as I, went through high school and college and got into the professional world, my first job being at Tavern on the Green as a restaurant manager back in the early 2000s, I was able to take those lessons and apply them. So I actually look at leadership and coaching very closely together. So even though my title was restaurant manager, I viewed myself as a coach even in that particular role.
Well, I ran restaurants too. So you get into a restaurant, that's you're on fire. Talk about learning how to deal with people, huh?
Ooh, wait, I still have a little PTSD about some of the things like, Valentine's Day, where we're doing, 2,500 covers that day, and it's all deuces, two people tables. I got one person yelling at me about the air being too cold. I got, two people yelling at me about the air being too hot. I got this one yelling at me about, the lobster bisque running out. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Spinning plates is, excuse the pun, but that's kind of what you are doing.
Bingo.
With that, that's a great story, because I know what you're talking about. Well, how important is team, or the team aspect, when it comes to running a restaurant?
The team aspect is everything, both from a logistical coordination standpoint as well as an overall experiential standpoint for the employees and the team members themselves, and certainly for the customers. I was able to really take that servant leadership model. The Tavern on the Green at the time, let me just backtrack, was the highest grossing restaurant, highest volume restaurant in the country at that point. I had limited to no restaurant experience. I was just good at connecting with people and, working my tail off. So, I was working 90 to 100 hours a week at that point in my career. And, it was a unionized restaurant aside from anything else. So there was no way an inexperienced 20-year-old kid at a restaurant with 15, 20-year tenured unionized employees was going to come in and tell anyone how to do their job. I had to show them, much like I described with my father, that I'm going to get in there with you. You need me to bust tables, I'll bust tables. You need me to, empty the trash in the bathroom, I'll empty the trash in the bathroom. I don't care. I'm not above anyone or anything just because I have the leadership title. And you saw the evolution of my relationship with the team grow and develop, and I believe unify the team that much more because they saw that their leaders were willing to get in there with them. And I don't think it had necessarily been done like that to that point. And I was fortunate enough, even as a young, inexperienced manager and leader, to unify and set the example rather for the other leaders that were there to do the same. And it really elevated and the experience and production of the team, which I was very proud of myself. I don't give myself enough credit.
No.
Traditionally, like most people, extraordinarily hard on myself. But as I've reflected years later, it was a cool accomplishment to, a year and a half later when I left, I got a standing ovation from the 150 employees I was overseeing, where at the beginning they were looking at me really cockeyed.
Trust, to get approved trust. You said work hard a couple of times, and Brett, that's awesome, because I've heard people tell me average skill set, if you work hard, can beat great skill set, because you got to have skill and the work hard. And you learned that from your dad. Have you taken that now to your coaching?
Yeah, I definitely have definitely had the throughput from, seeing that, my own experiences now over 2 decades in leadership and sales management, to the coaching realm, where, you've got to lead by example. At the end of the day, for people to want to follow you, they have to see that you aren't just telling them what to do. You're showcasing through your actions day after day after day that I'm in here with you. We're locked arms. And I've said, in coaching, so many leaders across, a variety of different verticals the last several years, that, one of the big unifying factors in all of this is the ability to really, lock arms and say, hey, none of you work for me. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. I work for you and you work with me. No one's ever worked for me. Everyone's always worked with me. And I think that these subtle language choices, when, meant in reality, not just, hyperbole and empty words, resonates with people. They feel that, and they're willing to work hard themselves because they know that their leaders are in there with them doing the same things, and not just they're practicing what they preach.
Yeah. How much is gratitude an important part of this?
It's amongst the biggest pieces of the puzzle. If there's no room for feeling sorry for yourself, there's no room for the blame game and the victimhood. When you're grateful for everyone and everything, I think I mentioned this when we spoke, but I wake up every morning and I say thank you, and I go to sleep every night and I say thank you, and I write down in my journal every day what I'm grateful for, because I don't ever want to take anything for granted. And once again, it's something that if you're leading a team, let alone leading yourself, people are going to pick up on the folks that are, they're just happy. They've got challenges. Don't get me wrong by any means, but they are grateful for their team members. They're grateful for their opportunities. They're just They just exude that gratitude, and through their actions and then their words. Like, to me, when I'm coaching leaders, like the easiest form of currency that you have available to you is just to show that gratitude and appreciation for your team. Say thank you to them, acknowledge them, praise them. You do that, and regrettably, you're already in the upper percentiles of leaders that they've likely experienced to this point.
Well said, Brett. That's, and unfortunately, it's not easy for everybody. That's when everybody can be a leader. But let's flip it. You're a coach and you work with sales teams and leadership. There's the other side of it. You've got an employee that's just not a good employee. How do you teach to handle that?
Yeah, it's a topic that comes up regularly. I was actually on a call right before this, and we were talking about this subject. How do you hold people accountable to doing the things that are in their best interest to do, that are going to lead to success? So, when you've got those individuals, I always coach my leaders to make sure you know the person, what makes them tick, what gets them jazzed up on a personal level, what brings them to the office or wherever they work on a day-to-day basis. And, when they're looking to make money, what they want to do with that money, what it's going to mean for their life, their family's life, etc. So peeling back the layers of the onion on a person by person basis, rather than taking an overgeneralized approach to problem solving, is a real starting point with all this. Because when the individuals on your team, those nuances, and you've been vulnerable yourself and shown I'm not perfect, here's some of my challenges and here's how I've overcome them, and showing an active interest in them on a personal level, it becomes much easier to have the difficult conversations with those folks, because they know you care, and you're coming from a place of just trying to help them do all the things that they said they were going to do. And that's again a big piece of the puzzle, is really identifying the people whose actions and words are not congruent, and nipping that in the bud early and often by having direct conversations. Hey, you said you want to do X, Y, and Z. What's holding you back? What can I do to help you get there? And documenting those things, having a really clear cut. All right, what's going well? How can we leverage it for additional success? Where are your areas of opportunity? What are you actively doing to address them? What do you need from me to help you in any of this? Here are my expectations of you. And having that be progressive, month over month, quarter over quarter. And if you're noticing that, the actions aren't matching the words, progressively escalating the conversation to be like, hey, listen, I want you to win. You've said you want to win. You've said you understand how doing these things, these actions, these behaviors will lead to you winning, yet you're not doing them. If you're not willing to do those things on a long enough timeline, I'm unfortunately going to have to find people that will. Again, I want it to be you. What do you need from me to make that happen? And I found that being straightforward like that, especially against the backdrop of showcasing that you care and you are delivering on anything they need from a professional skill development standpoint, inevitably, when you have to regrettably relieve people of their duty, I'd say no less than 50% of the times I personally had to terminate individuals, they thanked me on the way out because you told me, you said it, you gave me the chance, and said, listen, I hope you learned from this, and I'm here to support you beyond. I just want you to know that, this is still an area of opportunity for you. And, you can lean on me. You could call me in the aftermath.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. And these are key phrases that I use with my leaders, is identifying skill versus will gaps, and, nipping the will gaps in the bud, and, people whose actions match your words, and, tough on standards, not on people.
I like that phrase. That's a good one. Leaders have a problem making difficult conversations. how do you work with a, coach comes to you and says, I got to talk to this employee. I probably got to fire them, but I don't want to. I'll be short staffed. I'll be this, I'll be that. How do you handle that? Because I hear that. It's like, I'm short staffed already at my restaurant. I get to let this guy go. I know he's terrible, but I got to let him go because he's hurting the team.
Right.
How do you handle that?
You have to. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. It's because what happens, bad festers, and bad spreads quicker than good, regrettably.
Yeah.
So it's this not so hidden cost of keeping someone on there just to have the body, because they're not just negatively impacting themselves, they're negatively impacting the person to the left, to the right of them, because oftentimes those are the same folks that are blaming everyone but themselves for why they're not having success. So it's going to mean more hours and harder work for other people, but you've got to regrettably move along from those people sooner rather than later. And I see people hang on way past their expiration date for that reason. And I can't recall of any time where I've seen that working out favorably for anyone involved. And even the person who's in that position, if they're that unhappy and they're griping about these things regularly and their actions aren't going to match their words, then helping them find whatever it is that will do that with them. So that's typically how
I love how I love how you said that, because it happens with everybody. And it also goes down to the customer level. Let's use a restaurant. If you got a bad waiter and he's treating his customers bad and your employees, it's a bad animal throughout the whole business. So with your coaching, how does it work? I become a client with you. Walk me through the steps of what that looks like.
Yeah, so I do a very thorough vetting process up front with the people that I work with. I want to make sure it's a right fit on both sides of the equation. I'm sorry, my kids are
that's all right.
Hollering in the background here. So I want to I go through. I'm like, what's the problem you're looking to solve? Where are you currently having success, and how can we leverage that for additional success? Where are your areas of opportunity? How are you actively addressing them? What are your top 2 personal goals? What are your top 2 professional goals? So I go through this whole intake to, really drive towards, the root cause opportunities for people. I want to know as much information up front, because then I can customize the approach thereafter. I standardize it from the intake perspective, and then I customize it thereafter based off of the responses that I get from them. And, I found that in certain cases, I've had to turn away people because it wasn't the right fit. I could just sense from their answers that they weren't willing, there's that word again, willing to put in the work. They're just looking for the quick solve, the magic bullet. And that's not how I do things. So I get these answers, and then we start meeting on a weekly basis to have a progressive dialogue. So I don't leave any session without some sort of actionable takeaway for them to have. I'm sorry, Steve. Okay, you got it. Steve, I'm sorry about this.
That's all right. So you do actionable items, which I love. So they got homework, basically.
Yeah, because I've invested quite a bit of time, money, and resources into my own coaching and personal development. And the big distinction for me has always been, there's something actionable for you to do, because otherwise it's just conceptual, and knowledge isn't power, applied knowledge is power. So we're having these conversations, and every single time there's 1, 2, depending on who it is and what they're trying to accomplish, 3 at most actionable things for them to do between this week and next week that I'm going to hold them accountable to. I'm not going to let you get away with investing your hard-earned money into working with me and then not doing the work that is going to lead to the results that you're paying me to help you accomplish. And I take a lot of pride in that. And like I said, I've had to, turn away clients, and I've also had to let go of clients in certain cases, as probably holding on to them past the expiration date because I care a lot and I want it for them, and they say they want it. So I believe them until they showcase that, they're not quite there yet in the willingness to put in the work that's going to lead to those successful outcomes.
And a good servant has that mindset. It's going to benefit both of us if I let them go, whether it's an employee, your client, or if the client doesn't fit. I really want to work with you, Brett. Steve, let's find you somebody else. I know you do that, which again is a servant mentality. It's like, hey, I'm not a good fit, but I think you need to talk to this guy or this gal. And it's so important that it's hard to do, but it's got to be done.
It's taken me a while to evolve into that. I'm very empathetic, and I believe people when they speak, and sometimes, to my own detriment over the course of my life and career. But I'd rather operate with an empathetic mindset, or just, empathy as the leader here, because I do care. And I find that because I care, people are willing to open up to me quickly and give me the information that I need to best help them get out of their own way, which is typically what the issue is with most people. It's self-inflicted. Clearly there's external challenges and strategy that needs to be applied to go in particular directions of achievement. But more often than not, it's the self-limiting beliefs and self-imposed obstacles that once we tackle those and break those down, that it just frees people up to fly and move much more quickly and linearly towards the strategic objective.
What is your why?
My why is I want to make a difference in every single interaction I ever have, because it's something that lights up my soul. I love seeing people win. I want as deeply as humanly possible to see everyone win, everyone to be happy, everyone to be successful. And it's tough reconciling that at times, because I know it's not realistic per se, but that doesn't stop me from wanting that to be the case, and doing everything I can in my power to make that be the case. I journal every single day, and as part of my journaling, one of the things that I've written down now for 2 years straight is treat everyone you come in contact with as though they're the most important person in the world. And I live that way, because why not? Why the hell not? And it could be something as easy as eye contact and a smile. Yep. It can be, hey, I love your shirt. It can be as in-depth as, the coaching and consulting and, all of that, the speaking engagements on a broader scale. But I want to leave people feeling better about themselves after having interacted with me or consumed, any, content that I have, than they did walking into that.
I love it. You're definitely a servant, and I appreciate you. God bless you for what you're doing. You've put a lot of nuggets out there. I'm sure people want to reach out to you. How can they reach out to you?
You can go to my website, at Knopf Knows Solutions. I'm on social media at Knopf Knows on Instagram, Brett Knopf at LinkedIn, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever you got to do. Just throw up the sign and I will be there. But like you said, anyone that just wants to have a conversation really about anything, I'm always game.
Well, I'm going to add to it, because I'm going to do something crazy here. So, audience, the first 2 people that reach out to Brett, I'm going to give them a gift. I am going to send them a gift, because that's how important it is for people to meet with you. And it doesn't have to be a sale. If you just reach out to them to do a discovery call or ask a question, I want people to reach out to Brett, because you're doing good things. Your whole show today was about serving. And
That went
that's what we're
quickly.
all about. I love that. So yeah. So Brett will reach out to me when somebody mentions the show, and then I'll get you guys a gift. And don't be shy. And if I've sent gifts out, still reach out to him. I want 100 people to reach out. I want his calendar full because he said he wants to help people. We're going to give him people to help.
I love it. I
Brett,
appreciate that.
oh, you're so welcome. I loved having you on the show. Thank you for being on. Can I ask a favor?
By all means.
Can you leave my audience one piece of advice, something maybe I've not talked about that's helped you in your great journey?
Yeah, by all means. I've had the same piece of advice for an extended period of time here, and it served myself and others really well. And that's number one, identify in as much detail as possible what you want to do in your life and business. I mean, hyper specificity along those lines. Number two, identify the people that are doing that at an elite level. And if you can gain one-on-one access to them where it's affordable or just anything, do that so you can have direct actionable feedback to utilize. If not, there's varying different ways to see and hear what elite performers are doing, whether it's books or great podcasts like this, or small group coaching or whatever the case may be. But follow success leaves clues. And, if you've clearly identified what you want to do and who's doing it at a high level, take it, emulate it, gather those data points. And whether it works for you or doesn't work for you is almost secondary. You just get in the arena and you get that data and that feedback from taking action. And you're going to start to put the puzzle pieces together. And to me, that's the most linear route to having success in any area rather than trying to figure it all out yourself.